Thank you, everyone, for tuning in once again to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling with a very, very special episode. I've got a long returning co-host, Ches, but we welcome for the first time to this show from the Dave and Dave Unchained, a Van Halen podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave and Dave. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions.
Hello, Tim. Good to talk to you again.
Great to speak with you. We just had Tim on our podcast, and we are reciprocating here and being on yours.
Awesome. Yeah, I had the privilege of being on the Dave and Dave Unchained, talking about my Sammy Hagar book, Red on Black, and we are talking about that era of Van Halen on this show. This is a show that's been, I think, widely bootlegged over the years. I was talking with Ches before we started filming. I don't know that I was aware that this took place in its original time, even though I was definitely following the band. But
right.
It's here, and we're the better for it. Talking about Van Halen live in Dallas, 1991. This was recorded, I believe, December 6th. Yes, December 4th. December 4th, 1991, live at the West End Marketplace, Dallas, Texas. Right. And it was recorded. It was a free show, and it was recorded in like the city square or something like that. You guys maybe know the background a little bit more on this recording, why the concert was done, why it was free.
Yeah. Right.
It sounds like it was a makeup gig.
Yeah, yes. What it was what you call making good on a promise. As what happened was in 1988, when Van Halen was playing the Cotton Bowl on the Monsters of Rock tour, Sammy had to stop the show because he couldn't sing due to sinus infection and strep throat. He had promised to return and do a free show. The funny story is the backstory behind the scenes is the band was kind of furious with Sam that he was promising this free show because this show cost the band money. Yeah. It wasn't cheap. I think it cost them something like under $300,000 or something to put on, which, is not cheap to throw on. And they have to pay all their guys and gear. And, it takes people don't realize how much money it costs.
Just as if it's a paid gig, right? They still got to have it set up.
That's why tickets are so pricey. Yeah. It's no different. You got to have security. You got to have, roadies and line guys, the whole thing, sound guys. And what they did was Redbeard, the famous DJ, right? He kept bringing it up to Sam. Oh, Sam, you owe us that free show, Sam. You owe us that free show. And this is going on for years. Yeah. So now OU812 happens. They do the Monsters of Rock tour. They do the OU812 tour. And by the time they were like halfway through the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tour, they finally made good on this promise and did this free show in the marketplace, the West End Market. Now, if you look at the DVD, the Blu-ray rather, it's tight quarters there, and they said the numbers say it's 50,000 people. 50,000 people is a packed Shea Stadium. That's how many people.
It doesn't look. It looks like a lot of people, but it doesn't look like 50,000.
It looks and let me tell you something. It also looks incredibly dangerous. People are packed in there. Sammy is complaining within 2 to 3 songs that people in the front are getting crushed. So. Let's put it this way. Would have never happened today. Not in today's world would this happen.
No. In fact, they announced that show at the last minute, as late as they could, because Dallas was concerned that the more time people had, the more people would show up and that it would turn into, potential disaster.
Well, earlier that year in Salt Lake City, that's where the AC/DC tragedy was, where there were 3 fans that were crushed. And I believe that overseas that year, Queensryche were on the Empire tour, and same type of thing happened. Lax security, and so this is the same year. So it's a wonder that it's really a wonder that it was allowed to go through. Because there is something about watching that and thinking, as exciting as it was to see the band. I mean, that's my favorite. That's my favorite period of the band. Not just lineup. Yeah. That's my favorite album.
For the Sammy era for us.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the era of the band. But I wouldn't have wanted to have been in that crowd.
No.
Oh, no. There's a guy climbed up on a light pole hanging on.
It's crazy. I mean, that's why the show is only like an hour or so long.
Yeah, it's not
like they wanted to shut it down. because they could see that the crowd was growing and growing,
Right.
and Dallas was not taking any chances. I mean, I think there were some. I mean, I don't think anybody died.
No.
I think there were like some minor injuries.
Yeah.
But like overall, like they got very lucky that nothing more serious happened.
I guess they did, yeah. And yeah, Sammy says different times. I mean, these people are crazy.
You know what? You know what's funny? Yeah, no. Yeah, he notes it. He notes it. But you have to realize, first of all, it's a day show, so they're seeing everything. There's no lights. There's no darkness.
Right.
They don't normally see the entire crowd. When you're on stage, the lights hit you so strong. You can see maybe 2-3 rows. You cannot see the enormity. So now when you can see the enormity of the crowd, it's overwhelming. And it's also scary, especially when you're on stage playing and you feel responsible for anybody getting hurt. There were people, I don't even know how they did this. They were sitting on top of stop signs. There were people hanging off of lampposts.
Yeah.
It is really dangerous. The also funny thing is, it really, when you look at the Blu-ray, it really is such a throwback. I mean, when you were a kid and you look back at like the 60s video, you're like, oh my God, it looks so nuts. That's what this looks like now because it's over 30 years ago. And you're looking back and you're like, wow, that was crazy. And the funny thing about the whole thing is it is unruly and you could almost feel the kind of like panicky kind of vibe there. But the band, I have to say, I've never seen them so happy and spirited. They were very, very engaged in this performance, which is so telling because the live album that came from this tour was studio fabricated.
We were talking, Ches and I were talking about that too. Like, I'd much rather listen to this.
Oh yeah,
than
agreed.
Right now.
Agreed, because it's live.
Awful Carnal Knowledge. I'll listen to For All Awful Carnal Knowledge
sure.
Because everything on that live album is too perfect. We know the story, but the joke is like Eddie and Al were so excited to do the show. Both of them forgot their razors.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
they're both
wild.
Full beards, like
lots of hair,
like that any other time. Full beards, long hair. The band just looks so cool.
Yeah.
And another thing that I love about this show, and by the way, if folks are wondering, if you don't have the Live at Dallas, because it was a record store day, you need to get the deluxe version of this because the CD and the Blu-ray is all here. But
and it's also streaming.
It's streaming. But here's the funny thing, just to let everybody know, this is kind of a funny release. So when you get the box set, first of all, usually when you get a box set, you choose vinyl or CD, right? Well, there was no choice here. You're getting both, and it's expensive. Yeah. So you're getting the vinyl, you're getting the CDs, and you're like, oh, okay. Then you open it up, and you realize there's no live album on the vinyl. What they did was on the second vinyl on the box set, it is 3 leftover tracks, which, by the way, aren't anything special. It's the Right Now version with the organ solo, Right Now version with the guitar solo, which is the same original version of Right Now, just a minute shorter, edited single version, and then The Dream Is Over instrumental. The funny thing is, and Dave goes crazy every time I say this, is the other side of the vinyl is literally blank.
Yeah.
It's just emblazoned with a Van Hagar logo.
Etched or something, yeah.
Which is, and now if you're going to do anything for anybody, put the live album on the second vinyl and forget about the 3 BS bonus tracks. They're not even like leftover songs from like brand new songs that you've never heard before.
Yeah, people have never heard. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a little bit of a cheat there. Then you got the CDs, which is fine. And then you got the Blu-ray, and then great. Look, the box set is actually beautiful. It's beautifully put together. And what I love about it, and I don't know if you've noticed this when looking through it, Tim, but the black and white photos from photographer David Seltzer are absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
They are the best Van Hagar photos I've ever seen. Really captures the band's energy and spirit. And I don't know if you know the story about the blackboard. Do you know the story about the blackboard? Okay.
Sounds familiar.
There's a photo inside of the blackboard at 5150 where there's like ideas and song titles are written on.
Yeah.
Somebody's phone number was written on there. And when David took that photo, he didn't mean anything by it, but then someone blew that up from when it came out in the album and started calling that number. And it was apparently either someone in the band or someone attached to the band. And they had to disconnect the number because it was printed in the album.
You know what? You just reminded me. I think I remember reading that in Circus or something.
Yes, back in the day. Sure, of course.
Yeah.
But it's beautifully put together. The strange thing is, like Dave and I talk about this all the time, we can't understand the thought process of the way Van Halen puts out extra expanded editions like this. For example, they started by putting out the Live Right Here, Right Now album, of which they remastered and put out on vinyl only, no bonus tracks, and there are leftover bonus tracks, and no CD, no Blu-ray, no nothing. And there is a live concert film from that actual album, but they didn't put it out. And as we all know, it's not the original recording that was from May of 1992. There was a radio show that put that out over the airwaves, but it says it was recorded at that place. But it's apparent most of it, as Sammy noted in his book Red, was re-recorded at Eddie's studio, which infuriated Sam. He had to sing over the whole damn album.
Basically sing an entire set because they kept messing with it, and all of a sudden his vocals are out of tune.
Right,
exactly.
Right. And so, according to Sam in his book, he went there and he's like, "I'm doing this in like one sitting, one day, because I can't because you guys are crazy." Like, what are you doing?
Infuriated. He was infuriated.
And it's interesting because one of our critiques of that live album is the crowd noise is too loud, probably to cover up the fact that it's so studio fabricated.
Yes.
And one of the reasons I like this album that we're talking about today is that it's truly live. The crowd noise is not overpowering at all.
Let's get to that in a second. Yeah. I just want to say one more thing about the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge Deluxe.
Yes.
There is one. Van Halen do strange things.
Yes.
I don't know why. At some point over the years, and they could have put this on the Van Hagar box set. They could have put the audio from Live Without a Net as a standalone CD.
Absolutely.
That would be great. Maybe they'll still put that out. I don't know. They make weird decisions. But,
so their first deluxe version of an album is For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, and it's like that's a strange place to start. So ostensibly, I think they said it was for like the third. What was it? Was it some kind of anniversary? Which doesn't make sense to me either. But
there was no anniversary for the Carnal Knowledge. No.
No. Okay.
No, not an even one.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And that drives me nuts.
Right. So they start with that one. But first of all, the real reason they put out the box set, I think, is because let me clarify what I'm saying. The real reason they put out the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge box set is because when they put out the Sammy Hagar era box set, there were funky things going on with the vinyl for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. There were some complaints that one of the sides didn't sound good and all this stuff. And so, but they didn't redo that album. Warner Brothers wasn't giving people new versions or anything like that. So now they're like, all right, well, how do we fix that? How do we make up for that? I know. We'll put out a brand new box set of just For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, put on some quote unquote bonus tracks, which are totally bogus. And we'll actually throw them a bone and we'll throw them an unreleased live show, which I will give them credit, even though it was out on YouTube for years and had been bootlegged. It was like the first time that Van Halen had legitimately put out some previously unreleased tracks. So we were super happy to see that.
Surprised.
Right. But so now what's the next one going to be? Like, are they just going to randomly pick another one? But if they do pick 5150, you're absolutely right. They should do an audio version of Live Without a Net. They should also be Blu-raying that high def, the whole 9 yards. And then Dave and I always say that when they get around to OU 812, they should be doing the Japanese show,
Yes.
There was a Japanese
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
broadcast on TV,
Good
I believe.
quality. Yeah.
Right? They should totally throw that on the box set.
That's a short tour, isn't it? That was a short tour.
That was a short tour, right?
Very much so.
Yes, and then for balance, I know we're way off topic here, but this is what Dave and I do. And then for balance, they should do the I think it was Toronto, Montreal,
Toronto pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was
the Toronto, pay-per-view show.
They should put that in. That was Ches and I were talking about that because I used to think, why did they film it in Toronto? But it was like, oh yeah, they were managed by Ray Daniels, and that's where he lives, and that's where he's based out of. So, but
at the Molson Theater, if I remember.
One more thing about the box set, though, on the Blu-ray itself, there's something else that's missing, and I don't know if you guys are following or not, but do you guys remember that they put a live video for Top of the World out before?
Yes, the black and white, one.
Yeah.
Yes.
We discussed it on our podcast.
Yeah.
Dave went nuts on our podcast about that. He said that was so sloppy that they left that off.
Yeah. I looked at it and I'm like, surely that. I'm like, did I imagine that there was another video for that song?
No, you didn't.
There was a live video.
No, but this is the frustrating thing as a Van Halen fan. They can't even put all the release stuff on the box set to make it complete.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. It's like, okay, you don't seem to want to put out any unreleased songs. You don't even have to search that far to find things that have already been out there just collected, but they can't even get that right. So that's why, regardless, at least we have this,
right?
And at least we have a CD somewhere. There's a CD version of it. And let's talk about this show because I'm really glad they put this out. I do not think that this would have come out back in the day because it's so raw. Sammy's voice.
Oh, agreed.
It's just, but that's what I love about it, hearing it now.
Yeah.
And he even says, I don't care if I blow my voice up, man. I'm having fun.
Right.
Well, that's I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the ironic part is that this is the replacement show because he blew out his voice last time.
Right.
On this show, he's like, it's close. It's close. It's like men's a men's.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he's going to make it to the end.
Yeah. But you know what? Sammy's voice live is always good. And Sammy at his hoarsest is probably better than any David Lee Roth day because he has such a powerful
All right.
voice.
Let's not get crazy now. Listen to me.
I'm talking about strength of voice. Sammy's voice is very strong live. Now, wait a second. I want to also say this to you before you get upset. The funny thing about it is I find one thing that annoys me about the show is the background vocals are weak. Really, there's something about the way it was recorded. It's so low in the mix.
Yeah.
I mean, just listen to Runaround. Now, Runaround has those big, powerful background vocals. And when he goes, here we go, you hear the faint background.
Yeah,
it's really
that. It's not like it should be.
It's not the powerhouse.
And Mikey and Eddie sounded great.
Always
Sammy up.
They
made for a and I noticed that Top of the World was a bit weak.
Yeah,
yes,
you just kind of heard Mike go, on top.
Yeah.
And my theory on that is they were using pre-recorded backing tracks on that tour.
Oh boy.
And which was not unusual at that time. That's not just a criticism of Van Halen. Lots of bands were doing that, even back in 1991. And I think because this was a out of the ordinary live show, for whatever reason, they didn't have the pre-recorded backing tracks ready. You got to remember that the songs weren't typically in order of a regular Van Halen show. They closed, I think they ended the set with Top of the World, and that's usually later on in the set list. So I think they started doing it now.
Yeah.
So they couldn't get the backing tracks ready, and that's why they don't sound as polished, because it really is just Mike and Ed singing the background vocals and not a pre-recorded tape of Mike and Ed and like Mike and Ed on top of Mike and Ed, or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
they did in
yeah.
the studio.
Yeah.
Now that I have no proof of that, but that's just my theory.
And I personally just think that the mix was wrong. I mean, I hear Mike and Ed, but they're so low. It sounds like a mistake.
You know what?
You could, I'm sorry.
Yeah. You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like their vocals, because I mean, Mike is a powerful background singer. He can you pick a note, he can hit it.
Yeah.
And he was a perfectly good singer in his own right. I loved, and I don't, and you guys would know this, but I only saw Van Halen once. I saw them on the Balance tour. So I don't know when they started doing this, but when they would do Why Can't This Be Love?
Yes.
They get to the second verse, Mike would start to sing, you know, the first half, and then Sammy would cut over to Ed, and I thought that was just the coolest thing. And it sounded good.
That was like a Kiss thing during Rock and Roll All Night. When Kiss used to do that, they would do that. They give Ace and Peter. Exactly. That was always so cool.
I think they started that on the Gary tour, actually, and then that spilled over into the Sam reunion.
No, I saw them on Balance, and they were.
They did that on Balance too.
Balance,
okay.
Yeah. That's how I know for sure. That's the only time I saw them was in.
All right. I didn't realize they were doing it that far back.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. But as far as the set goes, you mentioned Sammy was really. I mean, some of the songs on For an Awful Kernel of Knowledge are at the very top of his range. Judgment Day. Oh man, that is a rough song to come up with second.
Yeah, but you know what? It's interesting. The funny thing about this set list is really good bangers. I think it's a really high energy, powerful set. What I love about this set is Know When It's Love. Okay, we don't have any draggy type of ballads. Surprisingly, Right Now has not popped yet. Now remember, Right Now became a popular hit later on in the tour. So Right Now wasn't huge at this point.
Top of the World was the current single, I think.
Top of the World, right, exactly.
Yeah.
What does piss me off is why playing either more Van Hagar songs or old Van Halen songs. I don't understand why on the third album at this point, they're still playing One Way to Rock, Guy Can't Drive 55. I think that just takes up too much real estate in a Van Halen show.
Especially this Van Halen show.
That they're still doing. I love One Way to Rock, the way that Eddie and Sammy ended up arranging it.
Agreed.
I agree.
Yeah. Agreed.
I Can't Drive 55 doesn't sound right to me with Van Halen doing it.
No.
Well, it's just on this abbreviated show where you're only playing for like an hour.
Yeah.
Like Dave said, why are you wasting valuable time, real estate, whatever you want to call it, on Sammy Hagar solo songs? Like, I get One Way to Rock. I thought they pulled that off marvelously. So you want to throw that in there?
Do.
Okay. But like, I Can't Drive 55, and again, at the expense of songs that are older in your catalog.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, they could have done Good Enough. They could have done
Mine All Mines.
Yeah,
Summer Nights. Pick one.
Well, you know what? The other thing is I do like the fast pace of the show, but considering how rowdy the crowd was getting, it's kind of surprising the band was like, maybe we need to take it down a notch for a song.
Right. But then again, as you say, I think the only programming as far as keyboards they had was for Why Can't This Be Love?
Yes, so, I'm actually surprised they did that one.
Yeah. Well, it was the biggest hit in that lineup, so I guess they...
Of course.
Well, actually, if you don't hear this on the released live album, but if you watch the bootleg, you can hear Sam throw out a name to the keyboardist who was that Fitz, Dave?
Yes.
Fitz, it would have been Fitz from Night Ranger.
He's like, he says something to the effect of, Fitz, are you ready? Can we do this song?
Yeah.
And then they launch into the song.
Right. Which is funny, but at the same, and I understand that's their biggest song at the time. That's fine. I think it's great to play that song, but I just was surprised. But it's interesting. I did think that this set had sort of an energy that I mentioned earlier in one of our past podcasts this past summer of the I don't know if you saw the Best of All Worlds tour, Tim, but
it never came around here. I wanted to.
Okay. Yeah. The first hour of that show, maybe hour and 10 minutes, was very much like this show. It was bangers, really strong Van Halen song, like Judgment Day and Pound Cake, and it was fantastic. I mean, in terms of this, and you can tell the energy is high. The guys are fooling around on stage, but they're playing good. It sounds like a fun live show. You can hear them having fun on the recording. And that makes all the difference in the world when it's not a run-of-the-mill arena show and blah, blah, blah. You can tell these guys are jazzed. They had purpose. They wanted to give back after, having to cancel the show embarrassingly because Sammy wasn't feeling good. And, and not that it's his fault. I mean, people get sick. But, I mean, they wanted to come back, and Redbeard kept hammering Sam. That I really fully believe Redbeard's the one who got this thing done because he wouldn't stop talking about it.
I mean, I when I was talking to you guys about the book, love Sammy to death, but Sammy never refuses a microphone.
No.
In his face, and he says crazy stuff.
Yes,
just off the top of his head. But for this is one time somebody called them on it. Do you remember saying you do a free show?
Yeah.
Oh.
And the band was furious. The band was furious.
Well, speaking of the band being furious, and I don't want to take it down to a dark path, but that's another thing that you guys may think I'm talking about doing Can't Drive 55.
Yeah.
On a couple of occasions, you can hear Sammy mention, I see that 55 shirt. I see that 55 shirt. Like you think about how mad Eddie was in 2004 when Sammy was talking about his tequila.
Yeah. That's why he got his tattoo on his arm of Cabo Wabo, because Eddie wouldn't let him wear the Cabo Wabo shirt on stage. So Sammy wore a sleeveless shirt showing off his Cabo Wabo tattoo.
So you can almost see, I hate to say it, but you can almost see the cracks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, on that 2004 tour, you can definitely see the cracks.
But I mean, even on this show back in 91, it's like, if I was, you don't need to keep mentioning that there's 55 shirts in the audience. We know. And I'm just wondering.
Because the reason why is the Van Halen brothers are like, if we let you into our club, you are in our club. Enough with the solo shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because, Sam came into Van Halen with his manager, Ed Loeffler. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it was a contractual thing, but the band is always, if you look at their tours, they're always playing Sammy solo songs.
Yeah, whether Eagles Fly or
Eagles Fly, 55. Why can't? There's only one way to rock, and it continues and continues on. It's like, why is this still going on? And it's not like I'm against those songs. I happen to love Sammy's solo stuff. Yeah. It's just not it. And it's a little.
Well, but that's because Sam is a strong personality.
Yeah.
And Dave, you actually know the answer to your own question because I think I forget, you were backstage something or talking to Michael Anthony and and of course you gave him like your list of about 20 songs you wanted Van Halen to play that night.
Of course, yeah.
And Mike was like, it's up to Sam. It's up to Sam.
Right.
Sam does the set list. Sam does the set list. So Sam does Sam call the set list? I'm sure he wasn't completely in charge of the set list.
Right.
But Sam had
right to refusal. He had right to refusal.
Right. At the least, Sam had a big say in what songs are played. So he's always going to pick at least one or two of his solo songs.
Yeah.
He is not going to do the Dave Eric catalog songs except for Panama and maybe Jump
Ain't talking
about love.
Ain't talking about love, yeah.
But I got to be perfectly honest. That's okay with me because I think, if sides have to be picked, I've always been a bigger fan of the Sammy era. But
that's fine.
Only Dave.
Listen, that's fine. But here's the thing. My thing is this. You don't understand. My thing is this. They're on their third album. I don't care if you don't play any Dave songs. Play Van Halen era songs with Sammy.
I get what you're saying. My point is that only Dave sounds right singing those songs. It doesn't sound right with Sammy singing.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I think
it's personality.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you for a lot of songs. But I do also think there are quite a few Dave era songs that Sam could have killed on.
Oh yeah.
He didn't let his insecurities and ego get in the way. I mean, on the 50, I mean, I'm going to steal one of Dave's stories. I mean, on the 5150 tour, Dave went to see the show, then he came home, figured out after the euphoria settled down, he figured out what songs they played, and he was like, wait a minute, if you get rid of the solos, they only did like 15 songs.
Amazing.
And
2 of them were old Van Halen songs.
And 2 or 3 of them were old Van Halen songs.
Yeah.
And it's like, and Sam would always say his go-to line all the time for the first 11 years he was in the band, he goes, "We're a new band. We're a new band." I mean, he was saying that during this concert tour. We're a new band. And it's like, Sam, stop.
Yeah.
You're not
I hear you. Like, I think that it might have, because I was very disappointed in 96 when everything fell apart. But I think it might have gone a little bit longer. And you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, did they ever try Sam out on a song like Mean Street or Unchained?
No.
Well, they did do Unchained a few times.
Just to make just to make a point, I saw the
I'll
best
tell you what really was the worst. Okay, and Dave, see if you remember this. I was just listening the other day. To a bootleg. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I was just listening the other day to a bootleg from the Balance tour, and Mike did his solo, and then at the end of his solo, the band starts playing "Running with the Devil" on the Balance tour.
I remember they did that when I saw them.
And then Sam comes out and the band stops, and then they go into one of his songs, and it was like, what? Wait, what are you doing?
No, I remember. They did that when I saw them too. They vamped on that for a little bit. Jez, you had something you wanted to say.
Oh yeah, just on that point about the Sam singing the Dave songs. I caught the Best of Both Worlds tour, and they did Unchained that night, and the place just erupted. Like Sammy singing Unchained, and it was like such a shock that happened. And also they opened with Jump. And I thought that was a surprise.
Yeah.
Because I thought, okay, they're going to play Jump, and that's going to be like the encore, kind of like was in the live album. But they opened with that. And also interesting that night, they pulled out another Dave song, but Michael sang it. Somebody get me a doctor. And
he's done that before, and they could have done that, and that would have. Sammy could have left the stage if he'd wanted to take a break. Yeah, there's things they could have done. I totally agree. I got to say one thing about because with the live album, and just to kind of wrap it up, that one of the best surprises for me on this live album, I was not expecting it, was Apolitical Blues.
Oh yes.
Totally.
Yes.
I was not expecting that going into Finish What You Started. I'm like, it's not my favorite song, but it's different.
It's different. It's a blues jam. It's loose. It's kind of cool. I love it. But I wanted to ask you, Tim, do you have any idea, when Dave and I have been trying to figure this out, that at the very end of the album, that song that they start jamming, do you know that song? The lyrics, I wrote them down here. The lyrics, Sam starts singing before they leave the stage. Sam is singing, "Ain't two ways about it, ain't no other way home. Ain't two ways about it, I'm gone, 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 gone." It's weird. It's like, it must be an old rock tune that I'm unfamiliar with, but as they were trying to pull them off the stage, the band was getting to be like a little bit of a wise ass, and they started jamming, like almost like continuing the song. I guess the last song was, what was it after Apolitical? Oh, Top of the World. So it was, they Top of the World, and they finished, but then the band kept going, like they wanted to not leave the stage.
Yeah.
And Sam was like, I don't know what's going on right now. And he started singing those lyrics, and I don't know if that was a song or not, but do you remember what I'm talking about?
I do, and I'm trying to Google here.
I know, I was trying to Google it myself.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing while Dave was telling the story.
I couldn't find it.
No, I don't know. No, somebody out, maybe does somebody out there in the comments let us know what song that is, or was Sammy just vamping?
Yeah,
So,
was he vamping? Was this like a song Ed was working on? And
Someday,
like,
we'll get that unreleased album and go, oh, that's what that was.
Right. But getting back to Apolitical Blues, I love that song. I'm one of the rare fans who really likes that song. And I'm a blues guy, so that's why.
It was a mystery too, because like if you bought the cassette, it wasn't on there. It only showed up on the CD. And it's kind of like gaining. It's kind of like that song is kind of like today. It's kind of gaining a little bit of traction because on the box set they came out, they put it on the rarities disc.
Yeah.
And now it showed up on like this live set. And I think, wow, like for such a song that was such a mystery back then, which I didn't know about because I had the cassette. It wasn't on the vinyl or the cassette. And now, like within the last 4 months, this song has been popping up. I think it's great. I thought it was also awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I love the fact because there's so few extra songs.
Yeah.
I remember around 1990 finding the 45 of Black and Blue.
Yeah.
And that was the B-side. I got a new Van Halen song to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some really good B-sides. I remember, for example, when Why Can't This Be Love came out, I bought the single. I'm all excited. And I put it on, and I was like, oh, my God, this doesn't sound like Van Halen. And it was a good song, and I liked the song. But even the guitar solo didn't sound like Ed until it got to about halfway through. And then I was like, oh, shit. I go, what is this new Van Halen album going to sound like? And then I flipped it over, and Get Up was the side. And I was like, oh, that sounds like Van Halen.
It's going to be all right.
Yeah, it's going to be all right. So, yeah, that's totally true. But it's funny. I tell you, I'm so curious to see what's out there. And here's the other thing I want to mention about this live recording is I wonder if this is what was available, I'm going to say, within reach of Warner Brothers. For example, they can't get to 5150 and the tapes that are at 5150. There's no way anybody's getting in there because Wolf has got the lock and key. Yeah. But if Warner Brothers has something in their vault and possession, maybe that's the stuff that they can work with. So I'm very, very curious to see what happens in the future here.
They didn't put a lot of time into the cover.
No. That's clip art.
I think it's a cool cover, but I think a fifth grader could come up with it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it's out. I'm glad we
got totally.
Yeah.
It's worth it. And you know what? It makes up for Live Right Here, Right Now.
It does. It totally, to me, it totally does. And it's a better representation. And musically, I think it's this band at the peak of their powers.
It is. Although I don't think Live Right Here, Right Now is horrible.
No, me neither. And I think it's a great collection of songs. It's just, I think I know there's the knowing that it was re-recorded, but I remember even getting it when it first came out. I didn't listen to it that much for whatever reason. It just didn't keep me coming back. So guys, this has been a fantastic chat. We could go on, but folks, if you're Van Halen fans and you don't listen to the Dave and Dave Unchained Van Halen podcast, you need to change that. You need to follow them. It's great content. These guys, obviously, you can see they know their stuff. So thank you guys for coming on and talking about this. And Ches, as always, thanks for weighing in.
Thank you, everyone.
This has been a really great discussion. I'm sure there'll be more. But folks, if you can get a hold of it, however you can see it on YouTube, as the guy said, Live in Dallas 1991. What do you all think about this? What do you think is out there that we may see yet? And leave it all in the comments. So thanks everybody for watching this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions, and we'll see you all later.